Hello, I'm Ms. Rose, and I'm about to tell you how my daughter mocked me at my own birthday party just because I brought a small gift. But here's the twist. She never knew what was inside. When she found out, the look on her face was priceless, and the drama that followed. It was like something straight out of a nightmare. But the real betrayal wasn't the gift. It was the years of emotional manipulation, and I'm done. What happens next? Trust me, you won't believe it. This is just the beginning. I pull up to the familiar, once warm house where my daughter Lena's birthday party is being held. The sun hangs low in the sky, casting long shadows across the neatly manicured lawn. It's a picture of suburban success, the kind of life I always hoped for her. But as I step out of the car, the weight of the years presses against my chest, and I know this birthday won't be any different from the others. I've been invited, of course, but only as an afterthought. The house is full of laughter, music, and the clinking of glasses, but it feels as if I'm walking into a room where I'm invisible. I can see Lena, her bright smile lighting up the room, greeting friends with warmth and enthusiasm, but her gaze never lingers on me. I try to remind myself that this is her day. I don't want to intrude. I hold the small gift in my hands. It's nothing extravagant, just a simple trinket I found at a flea market, something I thought might mean something to her. I remember the days when I used to spoil her with everything she wanted, but times have changed. I don't have the means to give her the lavish things she's used to now, but this little gift, I hope, carries some sentimental value, something I thought she could hold dear. As I step into the house, Lena's eyes briefly meet mine. She doesn't say anything, but I catch a flicker of something. Impatience? Disinterest? I don't know. Maybe I'm just imagining it, but it feels real enough. "Hey, Mom," Lena calls, her voice cheery but distant. She's not standing up to hug me, not pulling me in close like she used to when she was a child. It's as if I'm just another guest in her life, a familiar presence she's grown tired of. I try to smile back, but something inside of me tightens. I hold up the gift, offering it to her with the hope she might see the thought behind it. But when Lena unwraps it, I can see the disdain flash across her face. "What is this?" she asks, her voice dripping with mockery as she holds it up for everyone to see. "A cheap little thing? Seriously, Mom, I was hoping for something more fitting." Laughter erupts from the crowd, and my heart sinks. I can feel my cheeks burning with embarrassment. This is the culmination of so many years of feeling insignificant, unimportant. The one person I thought I could rely on is mocking me in front of everyone. The room continues to buzz with conversation, but all I hear is the pounding of my own heartbeat in my ears. I stand there frozen, feeling the weight of all the years I spent raising Lena, sacrificing so much for her, only for her to belittle me like this. The pride I once had in being her mother now feels hollow, a shell that I can't quite shake off. I quietly retreat to the kitchen, trying to compose myself. The clinking of dishes and glasses fills the silence, but it's deafening to me. I try to steady my breath, but the disappointment is a gnawing weight in my chest. As I stand there, I begin to think back to the days when Lena was small, when I worked tirelessly to make sure she had everything she needed. I remember those late nights when I stayed up, making sure she had clean clothes, doing whatever I could to give her a life better than the one I had. I remember the pride I felt when I watched her grow into a young woman, but now that pride feels so empty. I stand there in the kitchen, staring at the gift that now feels like a symbol of everything I've given and lost. I think about all the years, all the sacrifices, all the times I put my own needs aside to make sure she had what she wanted. And now she's laughing at me, mocking the one thing I had to give her. This isn't just about the gift. It's about everything I've done for her. It's about the years I've spent in silence, enduring the neglect, the dismissal. It's about the way I've allowed myself to be invisible in my own family. My anger begins to rise, slowly at first, a simmering frustration that builds with every passing second. It's not just about the gift anymore. It's about my dignity. It's about the respect I deserve. I've let them take me for granted for far too long. I walk out of the kitchen, my steps slow but determined. The cool evening air hits my skin, and I feel a flicker of something. Maybe it's clarity. Maybe it's the first sign of change. I walk through the backyard, letting the cool breeze wash over me. As I walk, I think about the years of silence, the years of being the one who always gave, the one who always sacrificed, always expected nothing in return. And now, in this moment, something inside of me shifts. I'm done. I'm done letting them walk all over me. I'm done staying silent. This has gone on for too long, and it's time for me to take a stand. For once, I'll speak up. For once, I won't be the invisible woman in this family. I stop walking, take a deep breath, and turn back toward the house. I'm not afraid of what's coming next. I know what I have to do. I'm not going to let this slide anymore. I'm going to confront it head on. The evening after the party, the air felt thick with the kind of silence that speaks louder than words. I sat in my living room, the remnants of the day still hanging heavy in the air. The music, the laughter, the faces, all of it had faded into an uncomfortable silence. It was as if a storm had passed, but the damage had only just begun to settle. Lena hadn't called. Not yet. I found myself staring at the phone, hoping, wishing for something. A message, a simple call to apologize, to break the stillness. But nothing. The silence was deafening, and it only served to make the words she'd said at the party echo in my mind even louder. That mocking tone, the laughter that followed. It felt like a slap in the face. My chest tightened as I thought about it again. I had raised her. I had sacrificed so much, given everything I had for her, and yet here she was, dismissing me, as if all the years I spent struggling to give her a better life meant nothing. The weight of it all started to sink in, and I couldn't help but feel both empowered and uncertain at the same time. I had said what I needed to say, stood up for myself in a way I never thought I could. But the reality of it was that Lena hadn't truly understood. I wasn't sure she even cared. Then, just as the loneliness seemed unbearable, my phone rang. I didn't need to look at the screen to know who it was. Lena? I hesitated for a moment, my finger hovering over the green button. Was this the call I had been waiting for? The one where she finally admitted her wrongs, where she reached out and acknowledged the pain she'd caused me? Or was it just another call to use me again? I answered. "Hey, Mom?" Lena's voice crackled through the phone, sounding more distant than ever. "I need you to come by. I've got some things I need help with around the house." I took a deep breath, feeling my heart sink. It was not an apology. It wasn't even an attempt to make things right. It was just her usual need for something that would benefit her, with no regard for what I needed. The hurt I had felt yesterday crept up again, and I couldn't stop the bitter thoughts from flooding my mind. How could she be so blind to everything I had done for her? I didn't respond right away. I just sat there, the phone pressed to my ear, feeling the weight of the years of giving, of sacrificing, with little to show for it. Part of me wanted to say no. Part of me wanted to tell her that I couldn't keep doing this, being her backup plan, her safety net, without ever being seen or appreciated. But I didn't. Instead, I simply said, "All right, I'll be there in a bit." The words felt heavy, reluctant. But I said them anyway, and hung up. The emotional wall I had carefully constructed after yesterday's confrontation began to crack. I knew I had to stand my ground, but I still loved her, and it hurt. More than anything, it hurt that she didn't understand why I was hurt. As I sat there, I found myself thinking back, far back to the days when Lena was a little girl. I remembered the late nights I spent working, stretching every dollar to make sure she had what she needed. I remembered the way she used to look at me, her eyes full of trust, and the way she'd wrap her arms around me, asking me to make things better. Those were the days when I was her hero. The days when I felt like the world meant something because I was giving her everything I had. But then something changed. It wasn't an overnight thing. It happened slowly, over time. She became distant, selfish, and I didn't notice it at first. It wasn't until her teenage years that I saw it clearly. The manipulation, the subtle demands, the way she started to expect things from me without ever giving anything in return. It wasn't just a gift she mocked that night. It was the culmination of years of me sacrificing, of giving, and never once being acknowledged for it. I remember one particular moment. I had worked so hard to save up enough money for something special for her birthday. I had been so proud of the gift, so excited to see her face light up when she opened it. But instead, she looked at it with disappointment, the same way she had looked at me that day at the party. She hadn't even bothered to thank me. Instead, she complained about how it wasn't what she wanted. I remember walking away from that moment, the weight of my efforts crushing me. But I didn't say anything. I never said anything. I thought, maybe next time. Maybe I can do better. But next time never came. Now, sitting in the silence of my living room, I realized something I should have understood years ago. This wasn't just about a gift. This was about the years of silence, of pushing down my hurt and my disappointment, of allowing her to take me for granted. I knew I had to make a choice. I couldn't go on like this. But how could I reconcile my love for her with the anger I felt? Could I forgive her without allowing myself to be hurt again? And more importantly, was I ready to do that? Later that evening, I met Lena at the diner. I wasn't sure what I expected, but it wasn't this. We sat in silence for a while, the awkwardness between us thick enough to cut through. I could feel her discomfort. She hadn't apologized yet, but there was something in the air, a tension I couldn't ignore. Finally, she spoke. "I'm sorry about what happened yesterday," she said, but the words felt empty. She wasn't looking me in the eye. Her words were rushed, as if she just wanted to move past it. I could feel my stomach tighten. She was apologizing, but it didn't feel real. It felt like she was saying what she thought I wanted to hear, not what she truly felt. My heart sank even lower. How many times had I been here before, listening to these half-hearted apologies that meant nothing? I didn't say anything at first. Instead, I stared at my plate, letting the silence fill the space between us. Finally, I looked up at her. "You can't just brush this off, Lena," I said, my voice steady but firm. "I'm not your punching bag, and I'm not here to be your backup when it's convenient. I've given you everything, and it's time you start respecting that." Her eyes widened. I could see her fidgeting with her drink, trying to avoid the confrontation, but I wasn't going to let it go. "You've taken me for granted for too long," I continued. "I'm not doing it anymore." The room fell silent. She didn't say anything right away, and for a moment I thought she might finally understand. But then she shrugged, trying to play it off. "I'm just busy, Mom," she muttered. "You know how it is." I nodded, but inside I was done. She didn't get it. She didn't understand the depth of the hurt, the years of sacrifice, and it hit me harder than I expected. I left the diner feeling empty, but something had shifted inside me. I had finally spoken up. I had finally stood my ground. Now the question was, could I forgive her? Could I continue to love her, despite everything? As I sat there, the weight of my decision pressing against me, I realized that healing wasn't just about forgiving Lena. It was about healing myself first. The house felt colder now, a sense of heaviness hanging in the air. I sat by the window, the fading light of the day casting long shadows across the living room. It was a few days after the dinner with Lena, but the silence between us still lingered like a thick fog that wouldn't lift. My thoughts were tangled, caught between the need to move forward and the fear of being hurt again. That night after our meeting, I had convinced myself that it was the right thing to do, standing up for myself, speaking my mind. But now, sitting in the quiet of my home, I wasn't so sure. Lena's words had stayed with me, the apology she offered still echoing in my ears. It had felt hollow, like she was apologizing just to end the conversation, not because she truly understood the depth of what she had done. I stared at the phone on the table, willing it to ring, hoping for some kind of sign, some indication that Lena was willing to make things right. But no call came. Then, just as I was about to let the silence consume me, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Lena. "Mom, can we meet for coffee?" I felt a strange mix of emotions stir within me, curiosity, hesitation, and a twinge of hope. Could this be the moment she finally recognized the hurt she had caused, or was this just another attempt to brush things under the rug? I stared at the screen for what felt like an eternity, my finger hovering over the keyboard. Should I respond? Was I ready to face her again, to risk another round of disappointment? I hadn't expected her to reach out so soon, but there it was, a chance, however small, to bridge the gap between us. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was more about her needing something from me again. I wasn't sure I was ready to give that. Not yet. But my love for her, the same love that had pushed me to give so much of myself over the years, kept me from saying no. I typed out a response. "Sure." "Tomorrow around noon?" It felt like the right thing to do, but my heart wasn't fully in it. There was so much left unsaid, so much that still burned beneath the surface. The next day, I made my way to the cafe where Lena had asked to meet. The streets were quieter than usual, the hum of the city barely making a sound. I arrived first, taking a seat at a small corner table, my hands wrapped around a cup of tea, waiting. It wasn't long before Lena walked in, her eyes immediately finding mine. She looked different somehow, worn out, tired. "Hey, Mom," she said softly, her voice lacking its usual confidence. She slid into the seat across from me, fidgeting with the cup in front of her. We sat in silence for a moment before she spoke again. "I know things have been rough between us lately. I'm sorry about what happened at the party. I was stressed, and I didn't mean to take it out on you." The apology came quickly, but I could tell there was more she wasn't saying. I could feel it in the way she wouldn't meet my gaze, in the way her hands shook as she stirred her drink. It wasn't the apology I had hoped for, but I was determined to give her a chance. "You're right," I said quietly, my voice steady but firm. "You were stressed, but that doesn't excuse how you treated me. It doesn't excuse the years of me giving everything I had and not being seen, not being appreciated." Lena looked down, her face flushed with embarrassment. "I know," she muttered, barely above a whisper. "But Mom, I've been going through a lot. Work's been crazy and I've been thinking about everything. About you. About how I've treated you." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But there was something in her voice, a hint of something that told me this wasn't the full truth. She wasn't fully ready to acknowledge how deep the wounds went. "I've been so busy with everything," Lena continued, trying to shift the conversation, but her words felt hollow. "I didn't mean to hurt you, I guess. I just don't know how to show you that I care." The words stung. She was trying, I could see that, but it didn't feel like enough. Not after everything. Not after the years of me sacrificing, of giving, without ever being given anything back. I sighed and leaned back in my chair, feeling the weight of the years between us. "You never had to show me. I always knew you cared. But actions speak louder than words, Lena. And your actions, they've hurt me, more than you'll ever know." She was silent for a long while, her gaze shifting to the window as if looking for an escape. But she wasn't going to get away that easily, not this time. I had always been the one to make things better, to fix the rifts between us, but not anymore. I couldn't keep doing that. As I sat there, I realized something. Forgiveness wasn't going to be a quick fix. It wasn't something that could happen over a single conversation or a quick apology. It was going to take time for both of us. When I got home that evening, I couldn't stop thinking about what Lena had said and about the words Miriam had shared with me not long ago. Miriam's right, I thought as I paced the living room. Forgiveness isn't about them. It's about me, about my peace of mind. I felt the conflict stirring in my chest. Could I forgive her? Could I truly let go of the years of hurt and betrayal? I sat at the kitchen table, my hands trembling as I reached for a pen and paper. My heart was still heavy, but I knew what I had to do. I wrote the letter to Lena, not asking for forgiveness, but explaining my feelings, telling her how deeply I had been hurt, but also how I still wanted a relationship, one built on mutual respect, not on the constant feeling of being taken for granted. When I finished, I stared at the letter for a moment, the weight of it all pressing down on me. I wasn't sure what would come of it, or if Lena would even care enough to read it. But I had to do this for myself, for my own peace. As I sealed the envelope, I felt a quiet peace settle over me, but a new fear crept in. Would Lena even care to read it? I couldn't wait forever, but part of me hoped she would understand. It was time to wait for the response and face whatever came next. I arrived at the community center just before noon, my heart heavy with the weight of what was about to happen. The place was quiet, almost eerily so. I could feel the tension between Lena and me, thick enough to cut with a knife. A week had passed since the therapy session that had left me conflicted and unsure. But today was different. Today, I was finally ready to face the past and all the pain that had been buried for so long. Lena was already there when I walked in, sitting in the waiting area, her body tense, her fingers nervously tapping on the armrest of the chair. I could tell she was just as uneasy as I was. She looked up as I entered, offering a small, forced smile, but her eyes betrayed her, the uncertainty and guilt clearly written on her face. "Mom," she said, her voice soft but filled with a desperation I hadn't heard in a while. "I know this is hard, but I really want us to get through this." "I don't want to lose you." The words hit me, but I didn't know how to respond. The space between us had always been filled with so many unspoken things, so many hurts that had never been addressed. I wanted to reach out, to tell her everything that had been building inside of me, but the silence that hung between us was too loud. I sat down beside her, both of us still silent as the minutes stretched out in the uncomfortable quiet. The therapist, Dr. Reed, was going to join us soon, but I wasn't sure what I was expecting from this session. Therapy, especially in our community, was never something people openly embraced. It was always seen as a luxury, something rich folks did to fix their problems. But here I was, sitting in this sterile room, ready to face the one person who had caused me so much pain. After what felt like an eternity, Dr. Reed walked in. She was a Black woman in her mid-40s, with a calm demeanor that immediately put me at ease. Her warm smile and welcoming presence made me feel a little less uncomfortable. "Good afternoon, Ms. Rose, Lena," she greeted us, settling into the chair across from us. "I'm glad you both could make it. Let's start by talking about your family dynamics. Ms. Rose, would you like to go first?" I hesitated for a moment before speaking, my voice quiet but firm. I raised Lena on my own, worked 2 jobs, sacrificed my own happiness just to make sure she had everything she needed. I loved her with all my heart, and I still do. But I've been invisible to her for most of my life. I've always given everything I had, but it never seemed enough. Lena sat still, her eyes fixed on me, her face a mixture of guilt and disbelief. I could see the struggle inside her as she heard me speak so plainly, the hurt I had felt for so long finally spilling out into the open, and it seemed like it was breaking something in her too. There was a long pause before Lena spoke. I don't know how to make up for all of this, Mom, she said, her voice cracking slightly. I never meant to hurt you. I was just so focused on everything else. I didn't see how much I was pushing you away. It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to take away the years of sacrifice that had been ignored, the countless times I had been overlooked for the sake of everyone else's comfort. I had poured myself into her, into our family, and all I had received in return was rejection. Dr. Reed, sensing the weight of the moment, suggested we dive deeper into the past. Sometimes, understanding the roots of the issue can help us move forward, she said. Let's explore a time when you both felt this disconnect. Is there a moment that stands out to you? As I sat there, the memories began to surface. I thought back to that time when Lena was a teenager, and I had to leave a family event early to take care of her. It had been an emergency, something only a mother would understand, but it wasn't just the situation that hurt me. It was the way Lena had looked at me. The way she had been embarrassed by my presence, like I was an inconvenience. I had to leave that night, but it wasn't just because of the emergency, I began. It was the look you gave me, Lena, the way you couldn't wait for me to leave, like I was a burden. I felt invisible, like my needs didn't matter, like I had done all this for you, and yet, it still wasn't enough. Lena's face softened, and she looked down, clearly struggling with her own feelings. I was embarrassed, Mom. I didn't understand why you always put everyone else first. I never saw you as anything other than my mom. I never saw how much you sacrificed. Her words stung, but I knew she was speaking her truth, and I had to face mine too. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I always put you first, your needs, your happiness. And in doing that, I lost myself. I never got the chance to live for me because I was always so focused on making sure you were okay. But I didn't ask for help. I didn't ask for anything. I just did it all, thinking you would see. The tension in the room was palpable. Lena looked at me, her face filled with guilt and shame. I saw her struggling to understand, to make sense of the woman who had always been there for her, yet who she had never truly seen. Dr. Reed's voice cut through the silence. Lena, do you understand now how much pain your mother has been carrying? Lena nodded slowly, her eyes welling up with tears. I do now. I was selfish, and I didn't see how much it hurt her. I was so caught up in my own world that I couldn't see what was right in front of me. I'm sorry, Mom. I don't know how to fix it, but I want to. Mrs. Rose, still hurting, took a deep breath. Forgiveness isn't about fixing the other person. It's about peace for yourself. Doctor, Reed said gently. It's about letting go of the past so you can move forward. Lena turned to me, her voice quiet but filled with sincerity. I'm so sorry, Mom. I didn't realize what I was doing until now. I'll work on being better. I promise. I could feel the weight of the years of anger slowly lifting from my chest, but I wasn't sure if Lena truly understood the depth of the wounds she'd caused. The true test would be what happened next. I left the therapy session feeling lighter, but the question lingered in my mind. Could we really heal? Or would the past always stand between us? The house was quieter than usual that evening. The television was off, the lights dimmed, and there was a stillness in the air that made it feel like the world had paused just for a moment. I sat in my favorite chair by the window, staring out at the darkening sky, my mind racing. The therapy session with Lena had left me with more questions than answers, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still missing between us. The words Lena had said still echoed in my mind. "I want to make things right, Mom." She'd looked at me then, her eyes full of tears and guilt, and for a moment I thought maybe, just maybe, she finally understood. But the doubt lingered. Had I really forgiven her? Or was this just another round of empty promises? I sighed deeply, pressing my hand to my chest, feeling the weight of everything that had come before. I had carried the burdens of this family for so long, but what did it mean now? Was this truly the start of something new, or was I setting myself up for more hurt? I closed my eyes and thought about a quote from Maya Angelou that had always stuck with me. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Was this the first time Lena was truly showing me who she was? Or was this just her trying to fix things for her own peace of mind? The uncertainty gnawed at me. For all the pain she'd caused, for all the years I had sacrificed, I still loved her. But love alone wasn't enough to erase the years of neglect, the times I had been invisible to her, the moments I had been left on the sidelines while she went about living her life. I was just about to get up when my phone buzzed on the table next to me. Lena's name flashed on the screen. I hesitated before answering, unsure of what to expect. "Hey, Mom," she said quietly. "I've been thinking about everything. I just wanted to check in." "How are you feeling?" Her voice cracked, and it was clear she was struggling with something deeper than just the words she was saying. "I'm okay, I guess," I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. "Just tired, Lena. I've been doing a lot of thinking, too." "I know," she said softly. "I know I've messed up, and I don't know how to fix it, but I want to try, Mom. Please, I want to make things right." Her words again felt like an attempt to patch up old wounds, but something in her voice told me that maybe, just maybe, there was more sincerity this time. Still, I couldn't let myself get carried away. The past wasn't something that could just be forgotten, no matter how many apologies came my way. I felt the familiar sting of doubt, the fear of being hurt again. But something else stirred in me too, a small flicker of hope. Maybe this was the beginning of something different. Maybe for once, things could change. I hung up the phone and sat in the silence that followed, wondering if I was ready to forgive. It wasn't just about forgiving Lena, I realized. It was about forgiving myself too. I needed guidance. I needed someone who could help me make sense of all this. And I knew exactly who to turn to. I picked up the phone again, dialing Miriam's number. She answered on the second ring, her voice steady as always. "Miriam," I said, my voice shaky. "I don't know what to do anymore. Lena's tried to apologize, but I don't know if it's enough. I don't know if I can trust it." Miriam listened carefully, her silence comforting me as I spoke. After a moment, she said, "You don't have to know everything right now, Rose. Forgiveness isn't just for the other person, it's for you. You've carried this pain long enough. It's time to let it go, not for Lena's sake, but for your own." Her words sank deep into me. She was right. I had spent so many years holding on to my anger, my resentment. It was time for me to free myself from the weight I'd been carrying. "I'm scared, Miriam," I whispered. "What if I forgive, and it all just happens again? What if she hurts me again?" Miriam's voice softened. "Healing is a process, Rose. It's not about expecting perfection. It's about choosing peace for yourself. Let go of the past, one step at a time." I didn't say anything for a long while, letting her words settle in my heart. I wasn't ready to forgive yet, but I knew I had to start somewhere. And maybe, just maybe, this was the first step. Later that night, I lay in bed, unable to sleep. My mind kept drifting back to the memories, The moments where Lena had dismissed me made me feel small. I thought about how years ago I had stood up for her in front of the whole family, even when it meant sacrificing my own dignity. I had always put her first, always made sure she was okay. But had she ever really seen me? Had she ever truly understood? I felt the familiar sting of bitterness, but there was something different this time. Anger, yes, but also a new awareness, a recognition that I didn't have to keep playing the victim. I had the power to let go. I had the power to stop carrying this burden. And that's when it hit me. Forgiveness wasn't just about letting Lena off the hook. It was about freeing myself. I had to break the cycle. I couldn't keep living in the past, holding on to every wrong that had been done to me. The next day, I made the decision. I called Lena and asked if she could meet me at the local park. We needed to talk, but this time, it wasn't about rehashing the past. It was about looking toward the future. When I saw Lena sitting on a bench, waiting for me, she looked up, her face filled with guilt. She opened her mouth to speak, but I held up my hand, stopping her. "I'm not here to talk about the past anymore," I said, my voice steady but firm. "What we need to talk about is the future. What kind of relationship do we want to have? This healing has to be a two-way street. I'm not going to just forgive and forget. You need to show me that you're willing to put in the work too." Lena nodded slowly, a look of relief crossing her face. "I'm ready, Mom. I know I've messed up, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes." I sat there, feeling a sense of calm settle over me. The road ahead would be hard, I knew that, but for the first time in years, I felt like I had the strength to face it. As we sat there in the park, both of us silently trying to figure out how to start again, I realized the hardest part wasn't forgiving Lena. It was forgiving myself for not having done it sooner. I wasn't sure what the future held, but deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. We still had ghosts from the past to lay to rest, and I wasn't sure we had the strength to face them. The courthouse was eerily quiet as I stepped inside, the clack of my heels on the linoleum floor echoing off the walls. My hands were clammy, and my chest felt tight. I had no idea what would come next, but I knew I was here for more than just a family meeting. Today wasn't about rehashing old wounds. It was about asserting myself, about setting boundaries that had been trampled for too long. I had hoped, even in the back of my mind, that this day wouldn't come, that somehow we could heal without such a confrontation. But here I was, walking into this cold, impersonal space, knowing that I had to face the very people who had disrespected me for years, starting with Lena. I walked down the hall to the waiting area, my thoughts swirling. The pressure in my chest was building with each step. As I entered, I saw Lena sitting with James, her husband. Lena's gaze flickered to me, but she didn't smile. James, on the other hand, looked completely at ease, as if he was the one in control. The sight of him made my blood boil. I sat down on the opposite side, keeping my eyes fixed ahead. This wasn't just about Lena anymore. It was about everyone, about the way my family had ignored my boundaries and my worth. Lena cleared her throat, glancing at me nervously. "Mom, I just want to say again how sorry I am. For everything." I didn't respond immediately. The words felt like a script she had rehearsed. It was as if she thought apologizing was the answer to everything. But apologies don't heal years of neglect, don't erase the hurt that's been building. Before I could speak, James chimed in. "Lena's right, you know. You've got to let go of the past. We can't keep living in all this resentment." His tone was dismissive, almost as if I wasn't even in the room. His words made me feel invisible, like I was the problem here. I could feel my anger rising, but I held it back. I wasn't about to let him dictate the terms of this conversation. This was about me, not him. I took a deep breath, forcing the frustration down. "Lena, I said, my voice steady but firm. This isn't about you apologizing over and over again. This is about the pattern that's been going on for years. The disrespect, the dismissiveness, and the way I've been treated like I'm invisible. This isn't just about one incident. It's about everything. Lena looked like she was going to say something, but I raised my hand. No, you don't get to interrupt me this time. You've done that long enough. My voice was strong, clearer than I had ever heard it in a long time. And James, you don't get to tell me how I should feel. This is my life, my pain, my healing. There was a moment of silence. The room felt heavy. I could see the shock on their faces, but I didn't care. This was my moment, and I wasn't about to let them walk all over me again. James shifted in his seat, clearly uncomfortable. You don't need to hold on to this forever, Rose. It's just tearing you apart. Let it go. Let it go? I repeated, a bitter laugh escaping me. You don't get to tell me what to do with my pain. You don't know what it's like to give and never get anything back. I don't need your advice, James. I need my daughter to show me respect. Lena's face fell, and she looked down at her hands. For a moment, I thought I saw something shift in her. Regret, perhaps, or guilt. She opened her mouth, but the words came out slow, uncertain. I've been selfish, Mom. I know that, and I don't know why I acted like that. I've always felt like I wasn't good enough for you. I always thought, you were this perfect person, and I couldn't live up to that. I was taken aback. Lena's vulnerability was raw, something I hadn't expected. My anger softened, but just a little. You're my daughter. You've always been enough. But I couldn't always give you what you needed if you didn't let me in. And I've always felt like my needs didn't matter. She looked up at me then, her eyes brimming with tears. I didn't understand, Mom. I was just so caught up in my own life. I didn't see how much I hurt you. A lump formed in my throat, and I swallowed hard. I wanted to forgive her, but something in me held back. Forgiveness isn't about words, Lena. It's about action. It's about change. You can say all the right things, but I need to see that you're willing to change. You don't get to just ask for forgiveness without showing me that things will be different. She nodded, her hands shaking slightly. I know. I'm willing to change. I am. But I need time. I took a deep breath, my resolve firm. Time doesn't fix everything, but I'm willing to work with you. If you show me, not just tell me, that you're committed to this. I've done enough for you and this family. I won't carry your burdens anymore. Lena didn't say anything right away. She just sat there, her head lowered, processing what I had said. For a moment, I wondered if it was all in vain. But then she looked up, meeting my eyes. I want to do better, Mom. I really do. I know it'll take time, but I won't stop trying. I nodded slowly, feeling the weight of those words sink in. This wasn't over. It would never be fully over. But for the first time in a long while, I felt like I had some control over my own life. As I walked away from the courthouse, I felt like I had finally taken control of my life, but part of me still wondered, was this just another beginning or the end of a chapter that would haunt me forever? I sat in my favorite armchair by the window, the fading light casting long shadows across the room. The house felt quieter than usual, almost like it was holding its breath. After the courthouse, after all the words I had spoken, the weight of everything was still pressing down on me. I had taken control of my life in that moment, but what now? What would my life look like if I truly broke free from the patterns that had kept me locked in for so long? The phone rang, pulling me from my thoughts. It was Lena. I stared at the screen for a moment before answering. My heart thudded in my chest. Was I ready for this? For her apology? For more promises? Hi, Mom, she said, her voice quiet, hesitant. Can we meet? I need to talk. I sat up straighter, feeling a mix of caution and curiosity. What's on your mind? I'm sorry, Mom. I've been thinking about everything. I know I've messed up, and I really want to start fresh. I want to fix this. Her words didn't bring the relief I had expected. Instead, they stirred a wariness in me. Hadn't I heard this before? Actions, not words, I said, the words coming out without thinking. You want to fix things, Lena. Show me. I've been waiting for years. There was silence on the other end. I could almost hear her processing my response, the weight of it sinking in. Finally, she said, I understand. I really do. I just don't know how to make things right. But I want to try. I nodded, though she couldn't see me. I'll meet you tomorrow. But remember, this isn't just about your words. You'll have to prove it. She agreed to meet at a cafe near my house. I hung up, the phone call leaving a strange tension in the air. I had been hopeful once before, only to be let down. Could I afford to believe her now? I glanced at the clock. It was getting late, and the house felt eerily still. I thought back to when I was younger, back to when I'd first learned to stand up for myself. I had always fought for others, my children, my family, but I'd never truly fought for myself. Now, I was doing just that. But it wasn't easy. Every time I stood up for myself, it felt like I was breaking a piece of me off and leaving it behind. I thought about the conversation with Miriam earlier, about how forgiveness wasn't just for the person who had wronged you, but for yourself. Miriam had reminded me that I had to let go of the past to free myself, but letting go was harder than she made it sound. The next day, I arrived at the cafe early, needing a moment to collect myself. I watched the rain lightly tap against the window, the quiet hum of the city outside as I waited. I couldn't help but feel like the calm before a storm. When Lena walked in, her eyes found mine immediately. She looked different, softer, more open, but there was something in her expression that made me hesitate. She wasn't the same woman I had known for so long, but was she really different? I'm sorry, Mom, she said, sitting down across from me. I've been selfish, and I know I've hurt you. I never understood how much you've sacrificed for me. But I want to change. I don't want to keep making the same mistakes. I nodded, taking a deep breath. Her apology wasn't the bombshell I expected, but there was something in her voice, something real. Maybe it was because I had seen the hurt in her eyes before. Maybe it was because, just for a second, I felt like she truly saw me. But then, out of nowhere, James walked into the cafe. His presence was like a cold wind blowing through the room. I immediately felt my body tense, the frustration rising in me again. He wasn't supposed to be here. This was supposed to be about me and Lena, not him. Lena's face fell as she looked at her husband, and I could see her discomfort. James took a seat at the table without a word, his eyes scanning the room, not once acknowledging the tension he'd just introduced. Why is he here? I asked, the words slipping out before I could stop them. Lena looked at me, her eyes full of apology. I didn't know he was coming, Mom. I don't care if you didn't know. You said you wanted to fix this, but you let him show up here without any respect for what we've been through. James opened his mouth to speak, but I cut him off. You don't get to speak right now. This is about my relationship with my daughter, not you. Lena's eyes widened, and she looked at her husband before turning back to me. Mom, please, don't be mad. I wanted to make things right. I've heard that before, Lena. But if you want me to believe you, you'll have to show me that you're ready to change. I looked at James then, my gaze hard. You don't get to come into this and try to tell me how to feel or how to fix things. You're part of the problem, James, not the solution. Lena looked at me, her eyes brimming with tears. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. I'll do better, I promise. I met her gaze, and for the first time in a long while, I felt something stir inside me. Hope, maybe. Or maybe it was just the realization that I wasn't going to let this happen again. I don't want just promises, I said. I want actions. Respect must be earned, not just expected. After a long pause, Lena nodded. I know, Mom. I'll prove it. As they left the cafe, James staying quiet for the rest of the meeting, I felt something shift within me. I had stood up for myself, set a boundary that I had needed to set for years, and yet I still wasn't sure if I had done the right thing. I stood there, staring at the empty chair where Lena had sat, wondering if this was truly the beginning of something better, or if I had just walked into another trap of false promises. It was late afternoon, the sun dipping below the horizon, casting long shadows across the room. I sat in my favorite chair, the soft hum of the house surrounding me. For the first time in a long while, I felt the weight of everything I had been through slowly lift, if only just a little. I thought back to the days when I had been so unsure of myself, when I let others walk all over me, made excuses for them, and carried their burdens as if they were my own. But today was different. I wasn't that woman anymore. The phone rang, and my heart skipped a beat. It was Lena. I had known this conversation was coming, but it still took me by surprise. Hi, Mom, she said, her voice softer than usual. Can we meet again? I think we need to talk about moving forward, about how we can start fresh. I swallowed hard. Lena, I've heard that before. I want to believe you, but my trust isn't something you get back with just words. It takes time. I'll meet you tomorrow, but I'm not promising anything. The hesitation in my voice echoed the doubts swirling in my mind. I had spent years carrying the weight of this broken relationship, of trying to fix things that felt irreparably shattered. Could I really let myself believe in the possibility of change? Could I truly start anew? The next day, I walked into the cafe where Lena and I were supposed to meet. The place was quiet, almost empty, as if the world was holding its breath, waiting for something big to happen. I ordered coffee and sat at a corner table, the soft hum of the espresso machine filling the space. Lena walked in a few minutes later, her eyes searching the room until they landed on me. Her face, as always, seemed a mixture of regret and hope. She sat down across from me, her hands trembling as she folded them in front of her. Mom, she began, her voice thick with emotion. I've been thinking about everything. I'm so sorry for how I've hurt you. I know I've failed you, and I've failed myself too, but I want to make it right. I want to rebuild what we had, and I'm ready to do the work. I'm ready to change. For a moment, I just sat there, looking at her. The woman in front of me wasn't the same person I had known for years, and yet there were traces of that girl in her eyes. The same girl I had fought for, the same girl who had hurt me so deeply. I've heard all the words before, I said, my voice steady but firm. But words are nothing if they don't match the actions. I'm not going to let myself fall back into the same old cycle of disappointment. If you're really ready to change, then show me. I can't live in the past anymore. And neither can you. Just as Lena opened her mouth to respond, the door to the cafe swung open. I froze for a moment as I saw James walk in. His presence was like a cloud, heavy and oppressive. I knew he wasn't invited to this conversation, yet here he was, standing by the counter like he belonged. Lena looked at him, then back at me, visibly uncomfortable. James walked over to the table and took a seat, his posture stiff, his gaze avoiding mine. I stared at him, feeling the familiar anger bubble up inside me. What are you doing here? I asked, my voice sharp. This conversation is between me and Lena. You don't get to be a part of this. James looked at me, unbothered, almost dismissive. "We're a family, Ms. Rose," he said. "Maybe it's time you let go of the past, too." I could feel the heat rising in my chest, my hands clenched into fists. "No, you don't get to come in here and try to tell me how to feel. You've never respected me, and now you want to lecture me about forgiveness?" Lena shifted uncomfortably in her seat, caught between us. I could see the conflict in her eyes, the desire to make things right, but also the weight of the years she'd spent trying to keep the peace. I turned to her. "This is your moment, Lena. This is your chance to show me who you really are. Not with more words, but with actions. I'm done being the emotional scapegoat for this family. If you want respect, you have to earn it." Lena's eyes filled with tears as she looked at me, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm really sorry. I know I've been selfish, and I haven't always treated you the way you deserve. I want to do better. I will do better." I took a deep breath. "You're not going to get a free pass just because you're my daughter. Respect is earned, Lena. It's not given freely." There was a long pause. Lena nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I'll prove it to you, Mom. I will." James didn't say anything. He just sat there, silent and distant, as if the weight of everything wasn't his to carry. I turned away from him, focusing on Lena. "You have a long road ahead, but I'm willing to walk it with you. But don't think for a second that I'll carry your burdens anymore. I've done enough." Lena left the cafe after that, promising to work on herself and our relationship. James remained quiet, his presence still a sore spot, but he didn't argue. I was done fighting for other people's respect. This time, it was for me. I stood up and walked out of the cafe, feeling exhausted but strangely at peace. My body ached, but my mind was clearer than it had been in years. Miriam called as I walked to my car, her voice full of warmth. "I'm proud of you, Rose. You've done what needed to be done. This is the start of your healing." I smiled softly, the words settling into my heart. "Thanks, Miriam. I think you're right. But there's still a long way to go." That night, I sat in my living room, reflecting on everything. The pain of the past was still there, but it wasn't controlling me anymore. I had taken the first step toward breaking free. But there was one thing I knew for sure. No one, not even Lena or James, could hold me back anymore. I sat on the porch, watching the sun dip low in the sky, the warm light casting a golden glow over everything. The calmness of the moment was unfamiliar, but welcome. The past few months had been full of turmoil, but now there was a stillness in my heart I hadn't felt in a long time. I took a deep breath, letting the evening air fill my lungs. I had come so far. The old me would have clung to the past, carried the weight of others' actions like a badge of honor. But that woman was gone. Forgiveness didn't mean I had to forget. It didn't mean I had to let anyone back in without earning it. It was about reclaiming my peace, my dignity. The phone rang, interrupting my thoughts. It was Lena. I hesitated for a moment, my heart racing. After everything, could I really give her another chance? "Mom," she said, her voice softer than before. "Can we meet? I want to talk about how we can move forward." I closed my eyes, letting her words settle. The hope that had been buried in my heart began to stir, but there was still a deep caution. "I'll meet you in the park," I said. "But Lena, this has to be different this time. I can't keep going in circles." I hung up and stood, my resolve firm. The past was heavy, but I was done carrying it. Later, I walked to the park where Lena was waiting. As I approached, I saw her sitting on a bench, her posture tense but hopeful. She looked up when she saw me, her eyes searching my face. I could tell she was still afraid, but there was a new sincerity in her that wasn't there before. "Hi, Mom," she said, standing up to meet me. I've been thinking a lot about everything. I want to apologize for the hurt I caused you. I've been seeing a therapist and working on myself. I realize now that so many of my actions were driven by my own insecurities and fears. I nodded, not sure what to say at first. My heart ached at hearing her vulnerability. But I knew better than to get caught up in the words. I appreciate that, Lena, I said, my voice steady. But words are easy. It's the actions that matter now. I can't forgive you just because you're sorry. You need to show me that you're really changing. Lena's eyes filled with tears, and for the first time, I saw real regret. I know, she whispered, and I want to prove it to you. I've cut off the toxic people in my life, including James. We've been struggling, but I realize I can't keep blaming everyone else. A pang of sadness hit me, but I held my ground. I had always hoped for this moment, but I wasn't going to rush it. I wasn't going to rush myself. I'm glad you're taking steps, Lena, I said softly. But it doesn't end here. You'll have to show me that you're really different. I need to see it every day. And even then, it's not going to be the same. Trust has to be rebuilt. It'll take time. Lena nodded, the weight of my words settling between us. I understand, Mom. I'll do whatever it takes. As we were about to part ways, I saw a familiar figure approaching. James. I felt my body tense, but I didn't look away. He was standing there, his hands in his pockets, shifting uncomfortably as if he didn't belong. Ms. Rose, he said, his voice reluctant. Can we talk? I stared at him for a moment, then motioned for him to sit down. Lena stepped back, giving us space. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I wasn't going to let him get off easy. James sighed. I've been wrong about everything. I've contributed to all this dysfunction, and I don't know how to make it right. But I'm willing to try. I looked at him, unimpressed. Trying isn't enough, James. You've hurt me and my daughter, and you think a few words are going to fix that? No. You've got to show it, just like Lena. I'm not in the business of accepting empty apologies anymore. He winced, but I could see he understood. I'm sorry, Miss Rose. I know I've failed you, and I know I've failed Lena, but I want to try. I don't want to lose my family. I didn't respond immediately. I needed to feel that he meant it, that this wasn't just another attempt to smooth things over. But I felt something that told me there could be change. Maybe not now, but someday, for him too. I'm not promising anything, I said. You need to prove you can be a man of your word. James nodded. I will. After he left, I stayed in the park for a while, reflecting on everything that had happened. My chest felt lighter, but there was still a long way to go. I wasn't ready to trust completely, not yet, but for the first time, I felt like I was walking in the right direction. Later that evening, I sat with Miriam, telling her about my conversation with Lena and James. She smiled, her eyes full of pride. You've done the right thing, Rose, she said. You set your boundaries, and you stood firm. This is just the beginning of your healing, and it's the beginning of Lena's, too. The next day, I attended a community gathering, an event I'd been avoiding for years. I was nervous, unsure of what to expect, but as soon as I walked in, I felt a sense of belonging I hadn't felt in a long time. People greeted me warmly, acknowledging my strength, my journey. Lena and James showed up together. Lena looked different, more confident, more grounded. She introduced me to her new partner, and while it stung a little, I realized it was part of her transformation. She was taking responsibility, moving forward. I walked away from the event that night, my heart a little lighter. The path ahead wasn't clear, but I knew one thing for sure. I was no longer the woman I had been. I had broken free, and Nothing was going to hold me back again.